All right, hello. I've been asked to make a brief loadout guide. I'm going to go through. This is non-faction specific. I'm not going to cover the weapons. We're just going to be covering implants, suit slots, and ability slot, primarily for heavy assault. We'll do a little bit of combat medic, a little bit of light assault, a little bit of infiltrator. Primarily heavy assault, and just covering the main loadout ones. So this first one that I have in place right now is pretty much the main things you're going to run. You're going to have adrenaline shield, ASC. You can do flash, frags, or concussions. That's really just personal preference. I honestly prefer to have the plasma grenades. Just getting those kills is nice. You can make a lot happen with concussions or flashes, but just the outright kill potential with frags is good. Of course, you're going to be running the med kits. Any of the 100 RPM, 500 damage knives, so like the default one you're going to run. And then you're going to go ahead and, in this case, this particular loadout, you're going to run Assimilate plus Battle Hardened. This loadout you want to be running in the larger fights, anything that's 12 to 24 or higher, and any place that you can have close quarters engagements. You want to be in hallways, holding head glitches, holding right angles, places where you're going to be able to make use of the Assimilate procs and be able to have cover to go back into to reset with your adrenaline shield, reset with your Assimilate, refresh your client side, get a kill, go back into cover, refresh, get a kill, go back into cover, etc. Just keep chaining one-on-one kills. The Battle Hardened, of course, is going to help. Once you get that first kill, you'll have no screen shake from explosions, no flinch, very useful. This particular loadout feels really good with things like the Beetlejuice since they don't have a compensator. It helps prevent you from getting that. If you're aiming for the head, it helps prevent you from getting the aim punch that's going to put your bullets up above someone's head. Next loadout, we're going to go ahead and just switch these real time. I don't have them preset. The next loadout that you want to consider running, if you want to be very fast, say for example, you're going to be in a containment site somewhere that has a long distance you need to run, or if you just want to have a sort of an advantage coming around corners, coming out of cover, you would run something like this. You're basically going to swap out the two main implants. You're going to put an athlete. This is going to ensure that your gun comes up faster into fire ready mode when you're sprinting. And then of course you do get the benefit after 6 seconds of sprinting, you will be 10% faster. So very useful. It can make you difficult to hit if you're at range, and it can make you harder to chase if you do have that sprint burst going. And the big thing with Survivalist, if you do decide to run flak armor, which this particular loadout, I would honestly recommend doing this combination, you're going to be safe from the frag grenades. It's going to be much harder to kill you if you're being air to grounded. You do still get that benefit of the Survivalist since ASC and Survivalist's 1 second delay recharge reduction do not stack. So if you're going to be running Survivalist, I highly recommend putting on that flak armor so you can at least get the full benefit out of Survivalist. But the nice thing with this is it helps prevent the usage of medkits as frequently, because a lot of times you can check and see, you can look down at your health and say, oh, I'm only missing 100, to 150 HP. I'm not going to pop this med stick. I will get back to full within 6 seconds. The biggest benefit of this outside of the health regen and the recharge delay is genuinely the movement speed buff. So it's twice as much as what Athlete gives you. And if you are playing heavy assault, you can turn on your shield and the 20% sprint speed buff will work through and basically completely negate your shield. That's one of the best benefits of it while playing heavy assault. Everything else, very similar, very straightforward. The only difference is instead of running adrenaline, we're going to be running nanite mesh generator. The main thing to think about here is you're going to be playing a very run and gun style. You're not going to be face checking 20 people. You're not going to be sitting aggressively on a corner. You're going to find an angle that you can go around the corner and get a pick, fall back, let your shields quickly regen. And typically by the time your shields are back, especially if you're running flak armor, it will take longer. You're going to get a very good chunk of your shield back, whereas with adrenaline, you might only get a quarter of your shield back. This requires you to get kills to make things happen. This requires nothing. It just passively regenerates whenever you are not actively using them. I did have an engagement earlier today, I believe, or even yesterday, where I was killing a couple TR players. I went behind cover because they had a battle rifle that I wanted to avoid. I literally just peeked one person at a time, would go back into cover, regenerate half my shield, repeak. There's even one time where I let this regen to full almost because I couldn't peek without looking at 4 people. So very powerful. By default, if you don't know what to pick, I genuinely recommend just running NMG. This shield is very powerful if you're playing slower, low pop fights in general, and it's particularly useful, you know, if you are not chaining together 3 to 5 kills every single minute. We're going to switch back to ASC here and really look at the 2 other loadouts that I'd really recommend running as of right now. So this particular loadout, again, not changing too much else here. We're going to stick with NMG. We're switching over to Sensor Shield. Obviously, having avoidance isn't guaranteed. I have perfect and normal. This is one of those loadout slots where if you have avoidance, you're going to want to make a slot for this. This is purely going to be your anti-cheese loadout. And in fact, we'll actually switch over to flak armor. This is going to ensure that grenades are basically not going to kill you. Mines are basically never going to kill you. Spitfires are never going to detect you. And you're pretty much always going to be at the minimap unless you're actively shooting. And a lot of times, this is such a short burst of time when you are in the minimap that it doesn't really matter. This allows you to flank. This allows you to get up into positions where people just won't be looking at you. And staying off the minimap is probably the #1 way to survive in this game as of right now. Pretty much every base you're going to go to is going to have radar. And if you aren't running this, you're going to have a rough time. Finally, we have one of my personal preferred loadouts. If you find yourself getting into engagements where you want to have a lot of sustain, you can either choose between Regen 5, or you can also choose between the Symbiote. So this loadout is going to be something you absolutely need to be running flak armor. Makes use of the survivalist, makes use of this. You can swap out if it's a smaller fight. This loadout is going to be fantastic to preserve your medkit usage, because the way that you'll play around this is when your shield breaks, you're going to get the 150 HP back no matter what from survivalist after a 6-second or during a 6-second period of time. While your shield while your shields have recovered, but maybe you don't have full HP back. Maybe let's say you took 300 damage instead of 100 to 150 damage. Let's say that your shield popped, you get your 150 back, and you still aren't full. Instead of running a med kit, instead of popping a med kit, you can simply wait until the next time you get into an engagement, and when you take a single point of damage from a bullet, then or an explosive, since this is level 5, you will get instantly 125 HP back. This is a 4-second cooldown. I'd like to iterate that more often than not, when you are in one-on-one engagements, those one-on-one engagements are going to be happening in a time span much greater than 4 seconds, right? You're going to be shooting one person, it might be 10 seconds before you see the next person. So Symbiote is extremely powerful. It coordinates really well with flak armor. These 3 combined suit and implants are so incredibly powerful. A lot of people don't utilize this combination because you really have to be playing in a get a kill reset kind of mindset, but it's extremely powerful. It has good farm potential too. You're able to sustain, you're able to be aggressive because of the flak armor. You don't have to worry about explosions as much. I would genuinely recommend this if you want a lot of long-term sustain. You're playing in the 1 to 12 fights, you're playing the 12 to 24 fights. This is probably one of the best loadouts you can run for that. All right, moving on, we're going to go over to Combat Medic. You have the tried and true Carapace plus Combat Surgeon along with Adrenaline Pump. And of course, you're going to be running the Nano Regen device. This is probably one of the most powerful loadouts you can currently run in the game. It is more or less the toughest thing to take down if someone's not hitting their shots. You can shuffle, strafe, move into cover, and basically be fully resetted. Now, I will say you'll typically be running the med kits. You absolutely can make the resto kits work since you have so much sustain already through your carapace and through your F key. It's going to exclusively be through your health pool, and you rarely will see, you know, if you're half HP, for example, and you get into a firefight, you pop this, you go back around the corner, they have to damage you through the resto kit and through the nano regen device. So this is an extremely powerful build. Highly recommend running this if you have the combination. Of course, you do need carapace, but if you do not, you can always swap out for assimilate. This is going to ensure that as long as you are hitting your headshots, then you're always going to have shield, you're always going to have health. This is very good. Of course, if you're playing in a small group of people, you can get a ton of sustain. But beyond that, really the only other option to consider would be survivalist. And that's because, again, you're running adrenaline pump. So you will get that 1 second shield recharge time. You'll get a ton of health back if your shield breaks, and you'll have even more movement speed than what adrenaline pump gives you. This one this implant, I should say, is across the board S tier implant, can be used on pretty much every single character, every single class, and you'll find some levels of success with it. Finally, the last implant loadout slot, I would say, if you really want to bully some people, you can do a loadout that revolves around the carapace plus their fortify. In this case, you absolutely will run the resto kits. You can swap out for the nano regen grenade as well. This is going to ensure that you have maximum sustain. You can quite literally throw this down, run to the corner, crouch, spam, stand still, hold a right angle, and you're going to be extremely difficult to take out. You're going to be healing no matter what because you have the carapace. You're going to have the nano regen device or grenade go off, I should say, and the nano regen device go off. And you're going to have that 20% small arms damage reduction for body shots. So you're going to be spamming your crouch key, quite literally just running up to a corner. Go over here, say for example, you throw the grenade down, you sit in the corner, you spam over and over again, and you're going to be able to pretty much never die until the regen from your F key and from the grenade runs out. And that's if you're still taking damage, if you haven't killed the people. Light Assault and Infiltrator are going to be very quick here. I personally prefer to run pretty much at all times the sensor shield if I'm going to be at fights where I'm flanking. However, a lot of times I'll either swap out the sensor shield for avoidance, or I'll put both of these on at the same time. Maximum flanking capabilities. Again, with this character, I'm going to be running Adrenaline Pump. Makes you very fast. Ensures that while, yes, a lot of your maneuverability is going to be through your jetpacks, you can obviously swap this out with ASC. If you find yourself running out of ammo a lot, maybe you're at an insane level of farm, then you can put on ammo belt. The reload speed benefit, a lot of people don't even think about this, but the extra ammo is nice, but the reload speed is very good for carbines. You're instantly having full ammo for a lot of your guns. The other loadouts I'd recommend, very similar to the heavy assault, you can always do the survivalist plus the symbiote combo. This one, again, since you are playing light assault, it is so much easier for you to go into cover and not have to worry about popping a med kit. If you simply head glitch or you change your elevation, you get into cover, you don't have to worry about regenerating. This, of course, is going to allow you to run C4 more often than not, and if you really want to be a meme lord, you could, in theory, run auxiliary shield. Might save you from a bullet, might save you from a random extra commissioner shot, who knows. But I highly recommend, just for general usage, sticking with the medkits for emergencies, of course. Beyond that, I think Icarus is pretty standard. A lot of people who know how to play with impulses are going to run that. Lots of maneuverability. If you really don't like impulses, you can, of course, run the flash grenades. Those will help you with your flanks. Infiltrator, don't really need to say too much about this. It's pretty much going to be adrenaline pump. You always need to have sensor shield on, and avoidance is very powerful. If you really don't feel like you need sensor shield, if God himself tells you that this fight is okay and you don't care about radar, or there's no radar, then you absolutely can run the symbiote combo, because the health does actually work and heal you through the damage, unlike survivalist. I will say the biggest problem with survivalist on infiltrator is that the moment you press your cloak, the shield regen obviously doesn't work, and the health regen from it does not work since it is an overtime effect. But pretty much always you're going to be running sensor shield, and if you don't have avoidance, I'd recommend getting either regen maxed out or getting symbiote maxed out and running that. That's about it. Pretty much every other loadout beyond this, there's many things you can run. I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that people have their preferences and you're going to find success with different loadouts, but more often than not, you're just going to be running things like battle hardened assimilate. You can do athlete assimilate if you're popping off and hitting the headshots. All of these implants and their combinations realistically are going to be revolving around your skills as a player. As one final additive, since the NS15 is something that is universally available across all of the factions, and it's not faction specific, you can run the following loadout and you can have a very powerful time just absolutely annihilating people. You can get away with mobility mesh plus the nanomesh specialist, and in this case you would do the resist shield. So this basically allows you to go around the corner, preemptively putting your shield on. You're going to be faster because of the mobility mesh, and it's barely going to run out of duration because of the nanomesh specialist. This is an okay combination. I personally prefer to do this instead. You run something like this, you come up around a corner very quickly, you are popping your shield before you come around that corner, and then you're laser beaming whoever you see. Other than that, those are my main recommendations. Give them a shot. There's plenty of other loadouts out there that are a bit more meme heavy, such as this one, for example, but we're not going to get too much into that one right now. Run these loadouts, and hopefully you have success.